Supervisory meeting come to order. I'd like to acknowledge the declaration of a quorum. Now we'll open it up to public comment for the regular meeting. Hey, yeah, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. As many of you know, I am the Heidelberg Township representative for the Heidelberg Trolley Trail Operation Committee. And as part of that process, we are in the middle of the restoration of the Oil Creek and the development, the continuation of the development of the Heidelberg Trolley Trail, which currently starts in Hanover Borough, goes through Heidelberg Township, stops at Fitzroy Road. That part's been completed for years. And last spring, we opened up from Springbrook Borough all the way out to Sunnyside Road in Jackson Township. Those are the portions that are complete. I always bring my big map along, and it's on down here, I'm sorry, but I will have this out in the hallway after the meeting to refer to and answer any questions that any of you might have about different sections of the development. So, the good news is that starting in the spring of 2024, we started on the restoration of the Oil Creek. Phase 1, which was in the part basically between Gitz Run Road out towards Jacobs Mill Road. That section, Phase 1 restoration was completed in October. And I just want to read a little excerpt from the current newsletter. I have copies up here, and I'd really encourage you to take a copy. And I also asked the township to post a link to the PDF file for this on our website. So, we started the $1.56 million restoration project in Oil Creek in April, and it was paid for. A lot of people have questions, where does money come from? The township is not paying for this. Okay, it's through the York County Rail Trail Authority. So the project was funded through the grant from the Wareheim Foundation and an easement from Wareheim Enterprises, the York County Conservation District and Planning Commission, as well as the Pennsylvania Department of DEP and the Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant. So all of these entities, through grant writing, were given the money to make this project start and go to fruition as it is right now. So you will see when we're able to have the public go out there, the restoration as it is right now. The current restored floodplain is now a sustainable low energy system in which the stream-based flow is reconnected to groundwater. Stream bagpipes have been lowered to allow flood flows to access the floodplain more frequently. Woody material, a lot of questions about all that wood that had been cut down and was piled up. Woody material was reutilized in the restoration, and rocks were placed and buried throughout the floodplain to increase floodplain roughness. So it actually decreased the energy of the water going through. The whole idea was to eliminate the erosion that had occurred over the last 100 years and really made this totally unsustainable. So all of that's been finished. Now, if you get down there, the stream channel meanders through wetlands with alternating riffles and pools, dispersing the flow across the full width of the floodplain. Lastly, the area was planted with native woody and herbaceous vegetation to provide additional soil stabilization and cover for the wildlife. The result is a highly functional wetland system that provides a complex in-stream and terrestrial habitat. It is stunningly beautiful, and it's not even grown in yet. I mean, it's winter time, but we were able to last hike through it in October when this part of it was finished, and the plantings had just been, the native plantings had just been established. So I'm hoping that as we continue development of this section between Gitz Run Road and Jacobs Mill, as soon as the weather breaks, we'll be back at it. Hopefully, we have the permits to go through with phase 2 Oil Creek restoration. There's a couple other things that we're hoping to accomplish. Trish. The Med Ed corridor has given us permission to develop the connector, the 1 mile connector between Gisborne over to the railroad tracks, and I can explain that on my big map. But I can't tell you how excited I am, and I can't wait to get back out there and see how it's gonna look in the spring. And I encourage you to stay tuned, read the newsletter, take a copy, and see me after the meeting if you have any questions. And I thank you for your time. Yes?
Let me ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Without counting against public comment time?
Yeah, yeah, we're fine.
Okay. I know there was discussion at the last meeting that the supervisors were gonna check into donating land with the
Yes.
warehouse. Does your team have an update for that? Has that been?
There will be an update about all of that in the agenda under recreation section, and we have representatives from the York County Rail Trail Authority here to address that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's okay. Meg? Oh, sorry, Meg was on the previous.
Yeah, I'm stepping in from.
Oh, okay.
Meg has a minor condition that it causes pain when she talks, so
Okay.
I'm gonna be the last one to walk. First of all, I'd like to clarify for those who have said that I worked the next campaign as a political news director, and I'm here to say that that is not true at all. I worked the next committee, and I voted for him because I thought he was a better choice. And also, I think I know the other 4 people who were appointed, they have the integrity to do the same thing. Now, what I'm saying.
We can't hear back here.
We can't hear you.
Okay, I'm here as a representative of the charity. I am asking the Board of Supervisors for approval to move forward with gathering information to apply for a grant through DCNR. The grant is only available until April 2nd. It has to be completed before April 2nd, and the application has to be put in. We met yesterday with the representative from DCNR, and she feels that if we move in a timely manner, that we can get it done. We have, the charity will do the legwork. What we wanna do is obtain the matching funds for the grant. The smallest amount we can apply for is $60,000 through DCNR, and they consider a matching grant to be $30,000. If any way possible, I'd like to apply for more, but that is contingent on, the grant, or the fundraising. We need that up front by April 2nd, so it has to be, with the grant application. A letter of guarantee that we do in fact have that money. We have, Judy has already checked in with Davidson, CS Davidson, as far as the site development drawing. If, none was done, I don't know if you got any update yet. One needs to be done, and, that also has to be submitted with the application. If this goes forward, Davidson will ask us, what do we wanna put in Deer Park? What are we applying for a grant for? And, that will be determined by community participation, and what we've come up with is, for the next meeting, which will be closer rather than farther out, because this one's late, we are going to design a short survey that people can pick up when they leave, fill it out, return it to the township, and they can rank how they want, what they wanna see, and what they wanna see be put in the park, or what they want to go in the park. There's also a possible QR code that we can create, that, something can be put at the park, that when people come into it, they can scan the QR code, it comes directly to the township website, and they can take the survey that way. Can I finish or not?
Finish.
We can use Facebook, Nextdoor, Savvy Citizen, and if we have any volunteers who are willing to go door to door. We need your approval in order to move forward with the fundraising. Some of the ideas that we have, are engraved bricks, which we ordered, I'm not gonna we ordered that, and you can see what it is. Very nice for you to see. There are different sizes of these, and size determines how many characters you get and also the cost.
And what are the bricks
I-
for?
Well, we were thinking about doing a patio type area, which, the area would need to be determined. We feel that the best area, or two of the best areas, one would be where the flags are currently, and the walkway that was put into the new cloth-colored pavilion, because that is not ADA compliant. That would be hard to walk on for anybody with any kind of physical issues. You can't push a wheelchair on it, you can't use a walker. So the river rock that was put in there on the walkway would be removed, it would be made wider, and then we could fill it in with the hard surface brick. And, so, but, you know, that's all pending your approval.
Yeah,
You know, you would need to decide if we go that route, where it would be put. We would also like to, now, I'm gonna say sell the rights to, benches, the ball fields, the pavilion. A price would need to be determined, naming rights. I didn't wanna scare you by saying that. So that would be a route we could take
Yeah.
also. And then, and I guess we're just asking that you give us permission to move forward on this, but time is of the essence. So I would also ask that, I know you can't make any kind of a motion now because it wasn't on the agenda, but for the next meeting, if, you would make a motion to commit to applying for that grant, if we can get the funds raised, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that the 501c3 doesn't need our permission or okay to do any fundraising.
But in order to do the grant, you have to sign off on it with the and
Is the township the applicant for the grant?
So in order for them to pursue the grant, we have to say, we wouldn't have to have the money this year, it would have to be in next year's budget, because they wouldn't get awarded the grant until the fall, and the money wouldn't be available till Jan 1 if they get the grant. So it's not an issue of having to have the money this year.
Okay.
So they would be able to fundraise all year.
I don't think they have to ask for permission to fundraise.
Now,
Yeah.
for this particular grant, since we own the land, I'm understanding, we have to sign off on that.
But we're the ones obligated, if we get the grant, to have the matching funds.
Yeah, in other words, what I think you might be saying is if the money's not raised through the fundraising, then it's on us to take it from the taxpayer.
No, not necessarily. If we don't raise the funds, then we don't submit the grant.
Well, the
But
grant
then
needs
we,
to be submitted by
yeah,
April.
and then we paid the engineer to do their work.
Well, then that can just be put to use at another time.
I agree with that, yes.
Okay.
May I ask a couple more questions?
Sure.
Will the grant monies could the grant monies be used to pay the engineers? Do we do
No,
that?
we need to specify,
Okay.
in the grant application what the money is for, and it's for revitalization projects at the park.
Right. So the taxpayers will be paying the engineering costs?
Yes. Now, Steve?
Sure.
There are other grants that can be applied for to
That's where
cover
I was going
additional
next.
costs.
Yeah, you can apply for other grants that you can then use that money as part of the matching.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, I think I understand.
And can I just make one more comment? For anyone, who thinks this can be done on their own or by using AI, whatever it is, artificial intelligence, it can't be done that way. There are policies and procedures that need to be followed, and if they don't follow to the T, the application will not even be considered.
So, one thing I would suggest is that the appeal you made here today is fine. One way to get it on the agenda would be to go to the next Park and Rec Board meeting and put that before them, and then they could make the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors in February to, do the grant. And that way, the survey or whatever could be, discussed there at the Park and Rec Board by the township people that show up. If we advertise, if we put out there that this is what one of the agenda items for the Park and Rec Board, then I think that will get a good response from the township, and you'll get a good feel for what the township is, looking for.
I understand that, Paul, but with all due respect, the rec board was created, what, 10 months ago? What has been accomplished? Time is of the essence here. I'm asking the board to please take this into consideration. And I can go to the rec board and speak to them, I have no problem with that. But in order to meet the deadlines, somebody needs to start working now, not 2 weeks from now.
Well, we can't authorize you to start now. The authorization can't come, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you've been working on it, and you can continue to do that. But as far as, the board or being committed to it, it has to wait till February 4th or 5th, whatever it is. So in the meantime, you can fine tune your arguments, you can find out more about what the public wants in it, and go to the Park and Rec Board. Now, I do wanna say that we've had a conversation earlier about what's been accomplished with the Park and Rec Board, and we've accomplished today, some things regarding the Park and Rec Board, and we're ready to move forward. Let me point out that all the members, including the alternate member, have been appointed to the Park and Rec Board by unanimous vote of the Board of
I
Supervisors.
understand
So, I think it would be a good idea to go through the channels that the Board of Supervisors created when we passed the ordinance for the Park and Rec Board. But certainly, continue to do your work.
that. But as far as the naming rights for the things at the park, we can't do that without your approval.
I agree. And I can't do it unless I hear from Mr. Schultes about the legal aspects
You
of it.
can't make a motion. Look, I agree completely with what Paul's saying.
Okay,
We go forward, but we can't take any official action, we can't make a motion because it wasn't on the agenda. And I do really like the idea of going in front of the park board and, talk to them about it so we can get a full picture of what's being asked, but fully intend to support this, absolutely.
okay. I just ask that you keep in mind the application date.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And, we got that February date, and the motion can be in place then, for sure.
Okay.
So it's good. Yes, Vicki?
I just wanted to say, as a board member of the Rec Park Board, this is exactly what I had said to you even after the meeting about time. When we haven't been able to meet for 2 months, but we already have, and we had already talked to the 501c3 about doing this stuff. So we do have a engineer and that lives in our township, who has his own business, who is willing to do this kind of stuff so the taxpayers don't have to pay, but as his way to give back to our community. We've been reaching out to a lot of people, and I think also, I invite the 501c3 to come to the meeting so they can see the work that they've been doing behind the scenes, and all the work, even though we haven't been able to meet for 2 months, we have been working and meeting and everything, so that we all can work together. It won't cost the taxpayers money, and we can all move forward to really put the park back to where the intention of the people that really started it, how they wanted it to be for our community. So I'm excited for them to come, so they can see what we've been working on too, and we can all work together to move all this forward.
Okay, sounds like the park board's gonna have a busy agenda on their first meeting. Okay, thank you. Now we'll open it up, any comments on that or any other topic. Sarah?
Sarah Wenzel, 330 Beacon. Two comments, one comment, one question. I absolutely agree with Sandy. I applied for the Park and Rec Board the first time and the second time, not because of any political siding, but because for 2 years when I was stationed in Germany, I was the head of the Park and Rec Board for one of the US military bases out there. And so I felt I could bring experience to the table. Had nothing to do with anybody's politics, and I think I made clear my reasons for resigning, so I'm gonna make that perfectly clear. My question today is, last January 2nd, 2024, under the planning and zoning section of that meeting, Chairman Hanson made a motion to approve the preliminary final subdivision plan, Mary S. Sterner Estate on Sterner Drive. And we were told at that time, this was ostensibly so a family member could move in after the passing of Larry to assist the family and for upkeep of the land. But in this past Sunday's paper, I was rather shocked to find that Michael Sterner had sold a property to Meadow Spring Acres to the tune of $904,900, which is more than an acre, I would assume. I did some digging on Meadow Spring Acres real estate, and they are a rental company. Now, Tim, you ran on a campaign of keeping it rural, and my question is this: given the fact that they are a rental company, are we expecting a subdivision to go in there for condos or apartments?
Absolutely not. That's, Mr. Furman here? Questions, go ahead.
Yeah, he's back there, he raised his hand.
Yeah, wanna speak to that, Justin?
Me and my brothers started Meadow Spring Acres
Okay,
as an LLC for a farming operation.
gotcha.
It has nothing to do with development, it is not a rental company.
Okay, that was how it was listed.
It's gonna be farming,
Okay, perfect, thank you.
We love
Thank
it.
you for filling that in.
and I was very happy to see the Furmans get that.
Absolutely.
And Justin, can I ask you one other question?
And
Well, your answer to that. That property is then preserved, is it
Correct.
not? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's not. Okay, see a hand way back, oh, Mike, yes, Mike.
If I can, just shed a little light on that, I know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. We have separate entities in our operation, and some of them look like rental companies because we rent our stuff back to another entity, just for tax purposes and liability purposes and all that, but I can assure you it won't be followed.
Thank you,
thank you.
that's reassuring.
Yes, okay.
Renan Castillo, 6826 Cannery Court. So Matt, I was angry and offended by your comments. Hopefully you won't leave the meeting in a huff just because I'm angry. You're not the feelings police, hopefully. Your comments, you really were talking to us like a kindergarten teacher to a bunch of kindergartners. Right? That's not your job. Your job as a government official is to, during these meetings, and it's regulated by law, right? There's an Open Records Act, right? And we are.
Like a kindergarten. Thank you.
Well, it is, so it is not your job, and it is actually wrong of you to be offended when we have to explain certain things to you. You can go back to the video and see what you said during your comments. Okay? No, what you said is that you are going to be the determinant of what comments are appropriate, what it is that people are allowed to say, and when you feel like people are out of line, you're going to walk out of the meeting. You're going to close the meeting. You're going to stop people from speaking. Okay? That is wrong. All right? And it actually reflects what I don't think you misspoke. I think that reflects a really significant problem we've had
It
here.
reflects me having a barrier that if you cross it, you've trespassed. And if you trespass past my barrier, I'm gonna take appropriate action, whatever that may be. And if it is walking out of the meeting and taking a break,
What is, so you're,
Just that simple.
and your barrier is speech that you don't like.
And I am a reasonable guy.
Are you? Because what you just said is that when people could get up here and ask questions of our supervisors,
Ask away, just don't get angry and start.
well, whether we have reasons to be angry. We have reasons to be angry if month after month, we see that you are misusing our taxpayer money. We see that you are,
Please give examples.
the $100,000 that were misspent in a hurry for election purposes, it is my opinion, Matt,
I think
that
we
it was
can
misspent.
Use the, what we said, this is repetitive.
Oh, so now you're gonna stop me.
Yeah.
But you have not addressed those questions. This law that Bob quoted is not in agreement with the Open Records Act, and we're gonna find out.
Repetitive, you're saying the same things.
Speak, Mark.
So listen, what do you
Schultz.
feel about that, Mr.
Schultz.
Schultz, on us not being able to finish our thoughts or have our 3 minutes?
Well, I'm not gonna answer your question, Mark, but if the board wants to take a second, and we'll discuss this. I'm not gonna do it.
Oh,
I would like to
Go
take
ahead.
that second. Resolution 2103 that was brought up by Mr. Stein indicates.
2021-03.
I'm sorry,
2021-03, it wasn't 2022.
2021-03.
Correct.
States that the supervisors may. It doesn't say the chairman may, and it doesn't say any one of the supervisors may, which I take to mean a vote. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, Paul, but if the board wants to take a second and have an executive session.
no, we don't wanna do that.
Let's keep moving.
Let's just keep moving.
I suggest that you let Mr. Ramon finish his comments and be done.
Well, for the record, this does say the chair.
Yeah, that's what I thought it said.
Not every reference is to the supervisor.
Right.
Real quick, here, item number 9.
Can you wrap it up quickly?
I will not wrap it up quickly, actually, I will take my full time. Matt interrupted me most of the time I was speaking, and I think you should listen to to Mr. Schultz's. You are indeed walking in pretty dangerous territory here, because you are censoring me specifically because you don't like what I'm saying. And there is nothing vulgar about what I'm saying, it is not repetitive to insist that you answer questions that you have refused to answer over and over again for years. There is nothing, and it is not wrong, just because you shake your head, Matt, and you disagree with what I'm saying, that doesn't mean that the comment is wrong. It is my opinion, this is what this is for.
You are entitled to say whatever
Yes.
you want. Not
Well-
entitled to get up and walk out when I've had enough of it.
Well, you are of course entitled to walk out. Nobody has questioned that. What is wrong is for you to end the meeting, in some cases without even voting, like you did last meeting. Right? The two of you made a motion, you didn't vote, and then you closed the meeting. Right? Well, it's on video. Everyone can see it.
Thank you.
So I would like to respond to Manan's comments. Back in 2018, I came to, and this was of course before the resolution was passed, I came to the township 4 and 5 months in a row asking the same thing, was repetitive, no doubt. Each month I was promised, and each month I had to come back the next month because the promise wasn't kept. It was that incident and the treatment I received on the last month, similar to the ones exhibited in December, that propelled me to run for supervisor. So, I would just say, it doesn't hurt us to listen to the taxpayers, and if they get angry, maybe we should listen a little harder.
Okay. Mark.
No, so, I mean, we talked about this, very good question on the subdivision plan there, on And I do think that we kind of ignore some of the things that are going on with zoning and subdivisions. The ramifications of approving one, type of use will allow other township members to ask for the same thing. And I think, number one, the zoning board, I think people have been attending, but, you know, they don't take minutes. There's no, and other townships have finding of facts, conclusion of law, basically supporting why they made the decision and talked about the zoning ordinance and how that was. So we approved this anyway, you know, it's pretty vocal about that. But there's some open issues there, and the zoning doesn't allow for that use specifically. It's actually prohibited. So there's all these issues that are going on, why they were approved. The next person comes in, wants to put one up the street from me. There's less for us to enforce because we just approved it up the street. The dog grooming business, I don't want a dog grooming business next to me. I don't want a hair salon next to me. But we're approving these things and they're having far-reaching consequences. The subdivision plans, with every subdivision, I brought it up before, waiver. We're having waivers everywhere. We're waiving this. This is waived. Every time we waive something, we set a precedent. The next person who's a bigger developer, now the current farmers are saying, hey, I don't want to develop this land, right? They don't want to develop it, but they're not going to be here forever. And there's going to be families that don't have children to pass their farms on to. And everybody's they're gonna cash out, and we just kind of go along and say, oh, it's the Furman farm, we're great, this farm, they're okay, they're gonna keep it, but it doesn't work that way. Look at the other townships, what's happened to them. Spring Grove is a disaster. I don't know if you've shopped in some of those stores, what's going on. People are moving into the area, and we laugh about, well, we're fine, but we can't make a waiver, we can't approve something and think it doesn't matter because that's my buddy or my friend or somebody that we can trust. That's not how it works. So what do you feel about that? Do you think we should be taking minutes at the zoning board meeting?
Alright, so a couple things on the minutes I think that is going to be discussed. But what you need to understand, Mark, is there's a zoning ordinance and there's a zoning hearing board. The zoning ordinance that we have in this township is very restrictive. 90%,
It's not.
listen to me,
I
90%
understand.
of the ground in Heidelberg Township is sliding scale zoning. That means a maximum of 6 houses per 100 acres. 1 additional house every 20. So that has severely limited. That's not something the zoning hearing board can change. That is in our ordinance. That's why we remain rural.
Okay, number one, if you read the zoning ordinance, and I've gone back with people who understand it, it contradicts itself everywhere. It's an ordinance of contradictions. It really is. So then we have the subdivision. You don't believe that if there's a waiver that's given for one resident, that doesn't allow another resident to get a
zoning
waiver?
hearing board cannot say.
Not the zoning board, but the subdivision plan. When you give a waiver for a subdivision, is there any ramification?
Your time.
No, it isn't. You
Time's up.
interrupted my conversation. I was saying something, you started
Time's up,
speaking.
Mark, and I'm gonna have the last word in this, is that I suggest that you read our zoning ordinance
Oh,
and
good.
understand how development is controlled in this
So-
township. And yes, look around, we're the only guys left,
How-
us and Manheim and Fedoris townships that have not developed significantly.
Okay.
We
Okay.
are rural,
Okay.
and we're in the middle.
For how long?
And I'm proud
For how
of
long?
being on this township for, as long as the supervisor, the next supervisor that can come in can change it. But as long as this board's here, we will keep our zoning the way it is and we will stay rural.
Okay.
Okay. Any comments, Andy, as chairman of the zoning hearing board on these comments?
I've responded to every question he's asked. He refuses to meet.
Yeah.
We can't
Oh,
debate
my
this.
goodness.
We can't debate this in public
Right.
comment.
So,
You can debate that there's issues related to what's going on with the process. That's what we're debating here, Sandy.
okay, next, Pat, I see your hand.
I don't always agree with Renan, but I think he really had a good point there. Matt just did it again. I stood up and I said, work together, peacefully do this. You came across like a bully, you really did. And that's not working together. I mean, shutting people down because you don't like what they're saying, that's a really,
You're taking
I'm
what I
still,
said to
I'm
you.
still talking. And that's the kind of stuff you do. I'm trying to get everyone to work together. And the way you came across, take my advice. I'm not trying to be bossy. Telling you how it looks on the other side. Telling us that you can be shut down. There, I mean, it's such a fine line of what you approve of when if somebody is making a request and you're ignoring them time after time after time, or whatever your reason is, that's not right. They have the right to finish what they want to say. You shouldn't shut down a meeting because somebody's getting frustrated, because they have to keep saying the same thing every time. I don't like sitting there listening to it either, but they have that right. This is America.
Thanks, Pat.
I don't know if there are any other comments today. All right, so we move on to the primary agenda. I'd like to make the motion to approve the April Board of Supervisor minutes. April. December Supervisor minutes.
Discussion, I have a motion to amend the minutes. The, last line of the minutes is in violation of section 706, number 3 of the Sunshine Act. It reads, section 706 is minutes of meetings, public records, and recordings of meetings. Number 3 is the substance of all official actions and a record by individual member of the roll call votes taken. The last line does not indicate who voted no. Of course, there was no vote. No one voted yes. If you look at the rest of the minutes, number 5, of course, and under Chairman Hanson, under Finance, you'll see that in both cases where I voted no, my name is listed. I did not vote no. There was no vote. It's in the recording of the meeting. No one who was at that meeting heard a vote. In point of fact, I pointed out to Matt, we need a vote. He stated you do not need a vote to adjourn. So if these minutes are approved as they read, they are in violation of the Sunshine Act. And if you put my name in there as voting no, I'm gonna pursue whatever action I can take with that. So, my motion to amend the minutes is the meeting adjourned without a vote.
The motion that was on the table was to approve the December Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. And I thought I heard a second, do I hear a second?
I vote aye to approve.
You gotta get the second first.
I did second.
Okay, so all in favor, aye?
Mr. Schultz?
So there was an intervening motion to amend the minutes. So you have to deal with it in the meeting.
You made that motion, there was no second.
Okay, so that the minutes should reflect that Mr. King made a motion to amend, it wasn't seconded. So go back to the
Back to the
motion.
original, I'll say it again, motion to approve December Board of Supervisor meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye?
No. Mr. Schultz, I hereby would like to put the township on notice that the approval of the December minutes are a violation of section 706, number 3 of the Sunshine Act.
And for communications, statements of financial interest forms will be issued to public officials, public employees, committee members, supervisor, forms, and all that. So you got your forms, everybody that's on the committee. They will. Yep, and that's due May
We've
1st.
had them for several years.
Every year.
You'll get it as needed.
Yep, that's it, 2025, May 1st. Supervisor Paul King, November 6th, 2024. Pay.
I heard what you said.
Leave.
May I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
What do you, on your communication?
Anything from my
Yeah.
Thanks. So in our November 6th agenda of 2024, it was stated that the 23 audit to be presented at the 12/4/24 BOS meeting, Board of Supervisors meeting by SEK. That's the firm that did the audit. It was not. And and when I questioned that at the time, I was told that they're not gonna be here and that, we had to submit, that anyone who had questions had to submit their questions in writing. I don't know what happened between the agenda of November 6th and December 4th, that they weren't there to answer the questions. And I just simply make a motion that as promised in November, SEK to come to the February 5th meeting to present the 23 audit.
And my response to that is I mentioned then that they don't answer questions, they come and present the audit. Instead of doing that, we provided the audit and we asked for comments on that audit. If people had a question, she could have come to the meeting and responded to those questions. But we weren't gonna take questions publicly, that is not the way SEK works. And since we received no questions, there was no need for her to come in. So that's the answer to that.
That's not how the November 6th agenda read, I have it in the quotes here.
So,
They didn't ask for any questions.
so there was a motion.
Lack of second. Lack of second. Yeah,
So shouldn't they still come in and do a report to the township and the
they can
residents?
provide a written report or they can provide a verbal report. We opted for a written report.
Not according to the November 6th agenda.
Okay, public safety. Chris?
If I remember correctly, I did not have a November fire report for December's meeting, but that report was provided to the township. For the month of December, 17 calls, 7 of which were in Heidelberg, 10 were in neighboring municipalities. That left us, for the month of December, we also had $190,000 fire loss in the township. We had a house fire on Gladco Lodge Road. We averaged 3 firefighters per call. We had 3 members for maintenance night, fuel reports attached. We were dispatched on 2 residential structure fires, 1 chimney fire, 2 fire alarms, 1 medical assist, 1 crash and entrapment, 3 fire police calls, 2 outside fires or brush fires, 3 investigation inside, 1 water rescue, 1 investigation outside. We were canceled prior to response once, canceled en route 6 times. We failed 1 call. We went to work 4 times, and 1 was out 9 times, engine 2 was out 6 times. The brush was out once, the utility was out 5 times, and the boat was out on 1 of the water rescues. That left us with 223 calls for the year, 102 of which were in Heidelberg, $190,000 fire loss for the year. We averaged 4 firefighters per call for the year. We went to work 26 times. And when I say went to work, I mean, we either had a working brush fire, an auto accident, an extrication, or some sort of a fire. The fire on Gladco Lodge, that building is still 100% fixable. We had a very successful firefight on that dwelling. I don't know if you noticed, but the number of volunteers per call is starting to dwindle. We're down to averaging 4 per call. Now that also takes into account we typically have 1 or 2 fire police show up and numbers are down for medical assistance, but it's starting to get lean again. I've had people move away. That's the biggest detractor. I've had 4 people move away in the last 3 months of this year. That concludes the fire report for December and 2024. I will say that already in the month of January, we're over 20 calls. As a matter of fact, we've had 4 since 5:45 this morning. So it's not starting out slow.
Good.
19 ambulance calls.
And 19 ambulance calls for the month from last year. Chief? You're up. 98 calls for service in Heidelberg Township in December, which includes 16 automobile crashes. We have 1 new officer graduated in December from the academy, he's now in field training. 3 new officers entered the academy on January 6th. The cell tower, new RFP has gone out. The cell tower is for the most part completed, except Med-Ed has yet to install the electric service to it. A new RFP is going out for tower management. New Salem Borough joined Northern Regional as a contract member effective 1/1 of 25, so we've been patrolling there, and that's all I have. Okay, thanks.
A question. Cell tower.
Cell tower. Oh, the cell tower company.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You said about hanging antennas. Do you have people who are hanging
We got an
antennas?
RFP out for someone to do the tower management, and that will be their job to find uses for that. Okay. I'd like to acknowledge receipt of the zoning activity report, acknowledge receipt of the code enforcement officer report. I'd like to make the motion for the approval of the well isolation exemption agreement for 1075 Borders Road, subject to review and approval of the solicitor, sewage enforcement officer, and payment of the township's cost of preparing the document. Do I hear a second?
Second. Good discussion?
Yes.
So I believe this might touch on what, some people have said during public comment. I recall last year or the year before, we gave an exemption to a property up on Iron Ridge. What my question is there some kind of guidance for the exemptions? Because some people in the township don't get them, and they have to put in a holding tank. And I'm just wondering, how does this exemption compare to the one on Iron Ridge? I believe that the one on Porter's Road is a smaller lot, it's closer to its adjacent neighbors, and I just have more questions about it and about the process of granting exemptions when there are other people. So I'm just wondering how that, I know it's a case-by-case basis, but what are the guidelines here for an exemption?
I would refer to the sewage enforcement officer for that, but essentially,
can we, and I think that's a good answer, Mr. Chairman. Can we wait for his report before
No,
we
I'm not
approve?
willing to do that because they need to move on this, but Chris,
I mean, I've been kept in the loop on this one. What had happened, the, well was too close to the septic. It always has been. Apparently everything was installed before those regulations took place.
right,
What happened was they went to have the septic inspected, and essentially during the inspection collapsed. So there is a holding tank, that's what collapsed, the tank went away, and because it was a steel tank, it was very, very old,
Okay,
and the tank was replaced in its spot.
okay. So it is a holding tank?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a septic tank, yes.
Okay. Oh, that has a drainage field?
I can't answer that.
yeah, see, we gotta talk to the SEO about that, but,
The SEU is recommending, he has the paperwork in place and everywhere, I sent his jobs.
yeah.
I spoke with Doug, and he says he can't do it until we authorize him to do it.
Well, he's, yeah, again, I wanna make that motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
No.
okay. Finance, motion to approve December's treasurer report,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve December bills paid report,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right to know request, we received 2 and completed 5 in December. Motion to approve 2024 real estate tax refund for Derek and Brandy Baker in the amount of $42.87.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Acknowledge receipt of, 1/1/2022, 12/31/2023 liquid fuels audit completed by Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of the Auditor General. That's just acknowledge. Motion to approve up to $500 to be paid to the general fund towards Porter Cemetery signage. This is, what Terry Lynn Ross brought up last week, and then we also had a request by Roger Wallinger for a sign. So, the first one, motion to approve, will pay the township will donate $500 to the, from the general fund towards Porter Cemetery signage, per request of Terry Lynn Ross.
Second?
Excuse me, I have a question about that.
Yeah.
We had a 501c3 in our township for stuff like that, so why are the taxpayers paying for a sign when we have a great 501c3 that could be raising money to do those? Because there's a lot of historical buildings in our community, and I agree with the signage and stuff. I just think this would be a great opportunity to give our 501c3, one of the things that they did say at the meeting was, they need projects so that when they're going out to fundraise, people know exactly what they're trying to fundraise for, and it makes it more legitimate. So why aren't we, instead of taking from the taxpayers and having people pay for that, asking our 501c3 if they would please raise the money to pay for these signs?
I don't have an answer to that, other than it's not directly related to the park, it's a cemetery, and there are residents that have bodies buried in that cemetery, and I think it's incumbent upon the township to put a plaque there, that's what I think.
I mean, I don't disagree with putting the plaque there or anything. I mean, we have a couple cemeteries in our townships, and, like I said, other historical, I mean, my building used to be the old hotel and grocery store. And I just thought it would be a great project for our 501c3 to raise money for the plaques.
Okay, I heard that, do I hear a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion to approve the $500 for the general fund towards the park. Towards the parks, a gift, pass it on, sign. This is what Mr. Bollinger, presented, this would be a plaque down behind the fire hall at the, walking entrance into the park. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Yep.
If I'm reading the estimates correctly, that sign is $1,600.
Yep.
So, the additional money coming from you, Roger? Thank you. The other question I have is, nowadays, you go somewhere, there's a QR code. And you put your phone on it, and it takes you to the information. I believe that would allow Mr. Bollinger to keep some of the money in his pocket. And and then that QR code would take to the website. The information then would also be on the website, Mr. Bollinger, and it would require less upkeep over time if you just had a plaque there or a sign there that says, interested in the history of the park, click here, or whatever you do there. So I'm asking that, that we hold off on approval of the 500, and look into the cost of a QR code there, providing the information more completely on the internet.
I don't care about the cost, my cost for that sign, that's fine with me, but I'd like to get it installed and that's true.
I say if the township's picking up 1/3 of the cost of a sign, I say of that magnitude, I say let's go for it.
If they don't want to, I can say that, I'll pay it off.
Yep, so, I think I heard a second.
Second. Then there was, Terry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, some of us don't use QRC codes.
Yeah, okay,
So,
so,
I know.
I would much prefer to have a sign.
Okay.
I wanna go back to the policy of, no more comments till we get through this long agenda. So, voting on this, I say aye.
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 3 ayes. All right, acknowledge receipt of the road maintenance report. Motion to approve Atlantic tractor quote number 002847 for the repair of the John Deere tractor hydraulic hose leak in the amount of $2,148.89. Second.
Second.
Question, is this the tractor that also pulls the sweeper?
Yes.
And is that this?
Yes.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'd like to acknowledge that the Heidelberg Township Road Crew, Chris, Ben, and Sam, they were awarded a Dirt and Gravel Road Program Award from the York County Conservation District.
Thanks for doing it twice.
Third time's the charm.
Well, it's not gonna wash away again.
I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the engineer's report.
Mr. Chairman, I know there's no motion involved here, but I have some questions on this engineering report I'd like to bring to the attention of the board. A lot of the information on that report deals with grants for the water company. And I'm looking down here at, local share account. We requested $939,186. Items included in the cost: new steel water tank, chemical storage building, new well pump, existing well, new secondary well, paved driveway and parking area, renovations to existing well building. I don't.
Driveway.
Yeah.
You mean I don't have to wash my truck every time I go up there now?
Well, I'm hoping you do, because I think a paved driveway is an expense too high.
Come on.
Keep in mind that we have to,
Man, Gets pretty muddy up
Well,
there in the
well,
spring.
well, I tell you what, I'll meet you at the bottom and you can take my car out.
Not me.
Remember that we have to do the matching funds again on these grants amount. And then you got, excuse me,
It's not matching.
no matching in that one? Okay, thank you.
That's just free money.
Free money. And then the other funding for the security upgrades, 156,312. They have at the bottom a quote, quotes are projected to be below funding level. Additional meetings are to be held about future improvements. I would like, so what I'm getting at is I would like a work session with C.S. Davidson and the Water Committee to go over these grants, find out what's in them, specifically if it's something that we feel we need, and to get our
Yeah, C.S. Davidson's coming to the water committee meeting, so maybe that's the venue for that.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, knowledge receipt of a certified letter from Land Studies showing their intent to submit a joint permit application under 25 PA Code Chapter 105 for activities within water of the Commonwealth to PADP Central Office for following project: Oil Creek Pedestrian Bridge, Boardwalk, and Hanover Trolley Trail. What is that exactly?
It's what they did, I mean, they just sent us that they applied for the grant to do all of that. It's nothing we have to do, I'm just telling you about it, saying they applied for it.
Okay, and we're made aware of it.
We're made aware of it, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna, since this is a motion by Paul, why don't you go ahead and,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, some of you received this spending report on the park. As you see, the information obtained from that park was taken from the SEK letter. I want to point out that in 2023, the township spent every penny except for $1,988. $100,000 was spent on the park. The money was mostly spent on a playground. The playground, we did not apply for a grant. Had we applied for a grant, we could have gotten $14,000, $15,000 for that grant. Unfortunately, and some of you have received the pictures of the current conditions of the playground. You have trip factors and unsafe protrusions out of the ground. Now, my agenda item indicates here that I was gonna make a motion for a safety report. But we still have the old safety report that was done. And if you notice, the one picture was also in that report, where a bolt is sticking out where a child's strings on their jacket or some type of clothing could get hung up on. In the report, it indicates that that is the most likely and most reoccurring injury to children in a playground. So I'm not gonna make a motion that we have a safety report. I think the pictures and the old safety report stand for themselves. What I ask is, in-house, with our employees, to correct these problems. Pull up the board, dig up the protrusions, and make it safe. it's not only a waste of money that was done there, but the end result was an unsafe playground for our children. And I don't think any of us would allow that in our own homes, in our own properties. And therefore, I ask the Board of Supervisors not to allow it on the properties that we take care of for the taxpayers. So, I'm just not gonna make any grant, a motion. I'm just gonna ask that the manager, through, coordination with the employees, take care of those issues. May I move?
Sounds good to me.
And, therefore, my next item, Mr. Chairman, I will not make either because we can handle those, expenses in-house. And, we'll wait for the grant from 501c3 or some other source to address, further improvements to the playground. One other thing I would like to say about the playground. I was informed that the old swing equipment was retained. According to the safety report that we received in 22, the distances for the swing set are not safe. So I would recommend to the Rec Park Board and to anyone writing a grant that that equipment not be reused. That's all I have.
You have,
Okay. Oh, so in the last meeting, it was brought up to consider joining the Spring Grove Rec Park Board. So I went there and asked them for the information. It's just under $24,000 for the township to join this year. There are some discounts. They didn't seem to be, to me, to be very attractive discounts, but that would be for, and there are discounts on the daycare. Unfortunately, the daycare doesn't have any availability to take on new people until they finish their renovation of the new building. I also understand that Kate King, the director of the Spring Grove Board, the Spring Grove Rec Council, came to the township and suggested, and correct me if I'm wrong, ladies, that we not consider joining until 2026. So I make a motion that the Heidelberg Township not join the Spring Grove Park, Rec Council for the year 2025.
That's not what he says.
well, either way, it is kind of strange to make a motion not to do something.
Well, you said you wanted to consider it.
I do, and what you say is true, but they can't do anything for us for at least 6 months till it's settled with the new building and everything. So I'm gonna put this in the hands of our newly, additional new members and existing members of the rec board to, determine what we should do with it, either join or not join. I don't think we need a motion not to join.
Okay.
Matt?
Yeah, I think the value in joining that organization, is more in the give back of what monies they can bring in, collectively as a larger group, grant monies that would way benefit your
Yeah.
23,000 up front, so.
Well, again, I think
But-
the rec board should.
Yeah, they should
Advise
handle
us.
that, they should work on that with those.
I already have a breakdown from the Spring Grove supervisors of what the benefits are and the downsides. I'm imagining you don't wanna hear it today.
Yeah, we can't do it right now,
We'll do
Mr.
it,
Johnson.
we'll put it to the rec board.
Please do. Thank you.
So, I think there was a motion.
I don't hear a second.
Are you withdrawing?
I'll withdraw my motion. I'll move on to the next.
Yeah.
The volunteers for the Park and Rec board, who will be assisting with the events, to obtain at the township expense a child clearance background certificate.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
So my next item, one way to get the Park and Rec Board moving and, would be to approve the event schedule that was approved when Mr. Johnston Ball was still the chairman. So this would, get them the ability to start to contact and arrange agreements with vendors. So, I'm not gonna go through the event schedule, it's there for you all to see. So the Park and Rec Board, please, get the agreements to the Board of Supervisors, because we're the ones that make the final agreement, approval. So the sooner you get those agreements to us, the sooner we can get the event schedule in place. So I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the event schedule as approved by the Rec Board in their last meeting, and that the Rec Board put on their agenda obtaining the agreements and the vendor's insurance.
I'll second that.
Discussion. I would prefer that all these events be reviewed by our current and newly elected and newly appointed park board members. When we say approve the schedule, I don't understand what that means exactly. Does that commit us to spending money? Does that, what does it mean? I don't understand. Right, so,
Mr. Johnson Ball? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman,
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
I was under the assumption that the Board of Supervisors was going to give us some small amount of money to pay for these vendors, that we could have these events. And if there was food provided and things, people, residents would pay for that food, and that would hopefully offset the amount of money that the township is contributing. Mr. King, did we get any money put aside?
It was my understanding that $6,000, I believe, maybe $8,000, was set aside in the budget for that. The reason why I'm also asking for the agreements to be done is then we'll know the amount of money, because the agreements will state what the vendors are gonna provide and what they're not gonna provide. So yes, the money's in there, and if this costs money, it's gonna cost advertising, it's gonna cost.
And it will lock in a price at this time to
Well, if they come back and none of them can get cleared, we can't have the event. You
Clear.
just made a motion for everybody to have to get security clearance.
No, that one's up. Oh,
No, they passed that one.
yeah.
So now everybody has to get a clearance before we can have an event. That
Right.
might not happen by April for the first event. Or what
So
if?
those clearances are also obtained by the vendors.
Right.
So the vendors who deal with the child-related, events.
So now you have your high school volunteers who are gonna do face painting now have to have a background clearance?
Yeah.
And so that might not happen before this event can happen.
Chris, how long does it take you to do your child lines down there at the moment?
Per person, it usually takes about 2 hours, and then it varies on how long it
Depends
takes
on
to
the
get
name.
back.
Okay.
Well, look, let me go back to, are you asking that we spend $4,000 for these events? Is that what we're
No,
voting
that-
on?
Like I told you when you asked me that, when Mr. Johnson wasn't there and I went up and presented those since we had voted on them. The intent of the board, Dan, myself, and Mr. Johnson at the time when we voted on this was, our events will not cost the township any citizens any money. The proper way to do the events is what we had discussed, was that stuff like the bounce house and stuff would be sponsored. Food trucks pay you, we don't pay them.
So what are we approving by scheduling these events? What are
You
you
have
asking
to
the board?
okay for us to do the events, we can't go and
So
ask
you
food
wanna
trucks
reserve
to-
the park ground?
Yes, we have, so that the office has it on,
Well,
that this.
I don't have a list of vendors to approve.
Well, we can't sign up vendors, you can't go to contract with somebody like the food truck people, you can't go, this is their livelihood, they make yearly schedules. So that's what I explained to you back in November, we have to go get on their list of
Okay.
agendas for the week, for the
Please,
year.
just in a few words, what specifically are we approving?
You're specifically approving the rec park board to hold these events in the park on those dates. You're not approving that you're gonna pay for them, you're just allotting us that the park will be
So
available.
you're reserving the ground for those events?
Yes, so that if there be tournaments or whatever,
Okay. What's the question?
Then we have to wait to make sure we can get the park safety, because he wants that in that fixed, before we can have an event there.
Well, how long, that will
I don't
certainly.
know until they go and look at it and see
You
what.
need to make the few things you pointed out
The
fixed.
weather has to, I mean, we can't fix the ground if it's frozen. I mean, I have to have those guys go look at it.
Okay.
But it can certainly be done by April, that's the first event.
Or we broke that part off. Look, if we're just saying that you wanna reserve the park on these dates, that I can agree to. Okay, so.
May I change my motion, withdraw it and word it
Okay,
that
please.
way?
Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve the dates in the event schedule and to set them aside for the events, organized by the Park and Rec Board, and them to obtain the agreements and vendors insurance from those vendors participating.
okay, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, now we're moving on to this.
Rail trail.
Rail trail people, you have the floor.
Huh?
Why don't you come up front?
Aye.
My name is Brandon Wingert, I'm the vice chairman of the Eagles County Rail Trail Authority. I'm here on behalf of Frank, who's our chairman. Gwen Lewis, our executive director, is here today. I think we're looking for an update on the township receiving a conveyance from the Wareham Foundation. And I think there was a verbal agreement that they were doing that, and that the township is.
We did receive that. Do you have a letter? You wanna cite it? Recite it?
Well, I don't have the letter, but we reached out to the foundation to see if they had any objection to the township conveying the property to the authority. They didn't, provided that their deed restriction about the Audubon Society stays in the deed, which, so that's what they said. It's not in the deed, but rather the restrictions in the subdivision plan. So I went back to one of their board members and said, we gave you a letter that said, to the extent that the township is not seeking to change this recorded subdivision plan, is that satisfy your concern? And he said yes. So I think we satisfied, it can satisfy the foundation.
Very good, good news. We're also here to, ask if there's anything else that we can assist in the preparation of that deed. I know when our chairman spoke last time, our schedule remains about the same, that we would like to be able to, award a contract to do some work on that parcel. And we're looking at, being able to start that work about April first. So, we're hoping that we can stay on schedule.
I have, one request upon my yes vote to the conveyance of that property. And I've talked to multiple landowners who that trail's coming through. And within this past hunting season, I have become, as the first trial run through the Spring Road area, what we have discovered, what I have discovered is some landowners are saying, hey, let's run it right through my hunting property, my land, which is fine, but what are we gonna do about protecting the rights of the hunters, the landowners, versus the trail use? And what I have personally seen in the Spring Grove section, and I'm sure it's gotten back to you guys, the Facebook went completely crazy a couple weeks ago, when the landowners in Jackson Township said, hey, we got 50,000 deer down here, what are we gonna do about the hunters and the rail trail users and everything else? And I said, well, we'll do a little experiment. The first day, we'll see what happens. And at 7:15 in the morning, here come your trail users, and they're wearing brown, and they're letting their dogs run through the fields. And the farmers went nuts. And, so I wanna see something happen for the 2 weeks of hunting season, that this particular trail system, since it's not the heritage trail, this is very unique. But there is a need to have some type of direction during that 2 weeks every year. And I've heard from multiple people saying, hey, 50 weeks out of the year, the bikers and the walkers and the doggers can have it, and the other 2 weeks it should be safe. It should be given back to the landowners so they don't worry about it. And I could go on and on and on. But you even have a rail trail user that comes out right at dark at wearing all brown coming up that trail, and he knows it. I mean, this is the craziness that's happening. And then you put signs up, you put a barricade up to try to keep people safe and keep people out, and they tear it down, and then they go crazy. So I really do think, before I'm a yes vote to convey that property, I wanna see some type of commitment from you guys saying, hey, this 2 weeks out of the year, we're gonna put a sign up. The trail's gonna be, given back to the farmers and made safe, or the property owners, and then it can be enforced. And I wanna see the dog law, the leash laws enforced, I wanna see all that. And I know you're relying on the good faith of people, but that always doesn't work. So, can we sit down and talk about that and have a discussion about how we're gonna get through that, working forward? And if that's a yes, then I would say we can move forward. I don't know how my colleagues think, but I think it's pretty important to address this.
I think we can agree, there's definitely education that needs to be done on both sides. And as far as dogs off leash, we're trying to use social media to get that is a rule.
Yeah.
And we did put additional signs out, so I think we can work together on that definitely. There's education needed on both sides, and I think there's enforcement needed on both sides.
So that's my question, who does the enforcement?
Right now, the enforcement is done by the local police.
On leash law, that's not animal control?
No, we have not used that in the past. I'm not saying we couldn't be used in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Local police, that means Chief Flash.
It has a question.
The only thing I would agree with you, Matt, the only thing I would reiterate is, it's more than 2 weeks of hunting season.
Yes.
Hunting season goes from basically the middle of August until the middle of February. So, you know,
That's right.
people need to realize when they're walking that trail, they better make themselves seen.
What I noticed through my experiences is that the off-season, the archery and all that stuff, the deer, it really didn't hurt anything. The deer became quite accustomed to the people using the trail. And then sometimes it was advantageous, cause right about when, you know, a deer had its eyes on you, a trail user came and took its eyes off you and gave you a moment to move to get yourself positioned to do whatever you had to do. But, you know, with guns, it's a totally different story. And, you know, you have people just, it's 7:15 in the morning and their dogs are running all over the fields and, or the guy that comes out at right at dark wearing brown, you know, and I even jumped the guy one day. I said, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "You're wearing all brown." I said, you realize I had you in my crosshairs a couple times this week. It's that dark." And he goes, "Well, I figured that." You know, you see, it's almost dark, and you see brown, and you get your gun up, and then you notice you got your gun on a person.
How many weeks are rifle season?
It's 2 weeks. I mean, I think
The
2
rifle's
weeks.
the issue.
That's the issue right now. I mean, you're right, Ed.
That bullet will
we
go
do-
2 miles, 3 miles.
But the signs need to be up before that too.
Right,
as
and there
far
needs
as
to be
the
social
safety.
media, not push the social media right before that event. And that, we found in the past that does a very good job. We have pictures of people on the trail with their dogs, on a leash, wearing orange. And we try and push those pictures out there to remind people, as well as signage on the trail.
Well, some people put on bright fluorescent green. Fine, dandy, I can see you, we can see you.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah, but it needs to be anticipated. We're having the same issue right now if we continue to get snow, because snowmobiles are not allowed on the trail. So we have to get those messages out in social media and the signs up, and we did put signs up just this past weekend, no snowmobiles. We have to do the same thing with hunting. We have to anticipate it and get it out there beforehand.
I would welcome the
Yeah.
opportunity to try to get something established here since we're in the infancy, before more problems happen. And,
Could we ask for something in writing to support this? Some acknowledgement in
Sure.
writing?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah.
Just a minute. So, also, the other thing that this has to include is that provision where it can't be used for anything other than a parking lot.
Right, and I know that's the last thing we wanted to talk about today, is there was, the original notation in the land development plan was referred to a nature preserve. And I know there's been a lot of talk about the parking lot. We wanted to emphasize a little bit today about the nature preserve, because what we're looking at right now is if we can acquire the deed for that property, we can move forward as early as April 1st to restore another section of Oil Creek. So the emphasis there is inviting nature and inviting the public in to observe the nature. And we have ordered a sign. Now this sign, we're gonna have 3 signs in that area. One will be on that parcel, that's the plan. This sign has already been created, and this is gonna be along the trail. So I wanted to share this picture with you, and you can leave some on the table if the public would like to see them. I brought several. This is meant for people who use the trail or who park in that future parking lot and wanna get on the trail, that they can know that we've invested in this restoration of Oil Creek and there's nature to observe. So I did bring a couple copies of this. This sign has already been made, and this one will be on the trail. But there'll be 2 more signs.
Alright, is there a question?
Yeah, the thing about the leash law, I find interesting, because we can even get residents of the township to listen to the leash law in our park, and that's a much smaller venue than
It's a
what the
problem
national
we'll
is.
never get a hold of until people get tickets.
Well, and I agree with that, but, you know, I think to hold them accountable when we're not holding our own residents accountable in our park
Anybody wanna see that?
is not exactly kosher either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thought.
Very good point. We need,
Yeah.
what's good for the youth is good for the world.
Great. I mean, we've been fighting that
If
one
I
for
can
a long
add something
time.
on leash law, if this is not a township park, it's not covered by township ordinance, and enforcement of a rule by an authority is not our problem. We're only authorized to, state law, township ordinances. And to my knowledge, Heidelberg Township does not have a township-wide leash law. Yes, there is in the rec for the park, but it is not a township-wide leash law. So that is not us.
But within our park, we can,
Within the park, yes.
there is an ordinance for that, and we haven't been able to get a handle on that, of people letting them all go through. Is all I'm saying.
A lot of that is just, use the park to be the cop. You don't enforce county laws.
Even when we turn people in, it still doesn't change.
But, so you say local, so the trail itself, it would be northern regional with patrolling?
That's the way it's set up right now. So it depends on the local ordinances that are established within that municipality. That's the way it is now.
What's your comment on that, Chief? You guys, you're not gonna walk the trail, are you? No.
If you ask him real nice, he might.
The biggest thing they'll
I
have to
can't
do.
comment on it because it's too late.
So the trail itself requires nothing as far as policing, as far as doing anything with the trail. The parking lot at night, much like any park at night, will have to be monitored.
Let have lighting.
No, the parking lot will not be open after the hours of darkness. And to put lighting there invites people. The trail, the parking lot, not open after the hours of darkness.
Okay.
No.
So, what are we, this was informative, and we would need a motion to move forward with the solicitor transfer, I think is what we're talking about.
Not, so we're gonna, what's your timeline? We need to record the deed.
We'd like to have the deed recorded sometime in March so that we're ready to go April 1st.
So if the motion is to move forward with the process, then things are necessary to transfer, but February, we will be pretty nice and full. Move forward. Sometime when it's needed.
So, motion to move forward with the conveyance of the, property to the Rail Trail Authority for purpose of the park, including the restrictions that we discussed, those restrictions being that it must be used as a park or a nature center. And if we want some kind of acknowledgement in writing that provision will be made to prevent injury, hunting incidents from occurring. Some kind of tell us what you're gonna do. You're gonna put signs up, you're gonna make sure that no one's gonna get shot. So I
Second.
think I just made a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, order. Motion to authorize the solicitor amend resolution 2024, which is established by the Board of Supervisors and shall be known as the Heidelberg Township Water Committee for a term of 1 year, resolved on May 1st, 2024, to continue the water committee past December 30, 2025. That's basically establishing the water committee.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Point of order. The resolution 2407, number 1 states, for a term of 1 year, unless the Board of Supervisors, in its sole discretion, repeals this resolution prior to the end of the term, which means we can't amend it to extend the date, in addition to the fact that everybody was appointed for that 1 year term. So we have to repeal this resolution and draw up a new one. I believe that's the reading. Mr. Schultes?
So,
And then resolutions over time.
yeah, so you wanna extend it past 1 year, right? You want it to go for another year, or you want it to be indefinite?
Yeah, because that's not stated either.
I'd say indefinite, because that gives us, we don't have to come back and visit it every year.
So if it's indefinite, then that means you have to have staggering terms instead of everybody appointed, right? So it'll need a new resolution.
I think, if the motion is to amend the resolution to permit it to continue indefinitely or until the board appeals it, then that's the motion. You can do that.
What? Oh, you don't,
I don't so you're gonna be extending the water committee. Does that mean the existing people who in this board resolution were appointed for a year are also gonna be extended?
Yeah, that's,
And no
Who would have-
term limit?
you tell me what you want, how you want it to be.
yeah, we want term.
Yeah.
So then you're gonna have to
Yeah.
repeal it and do a new one.
So, I think the discussion then is, do we have to repeal it?
I think we can amend it to
Or
accomplish
just
what
amend
we
it.
want, so we can show.
So we don't have to repeal, we can amend, we can fix it, is that?
We can add term limits, we can extend it past 1 year,
You
stagger it.
review the draft,
Just tell me
Paul?
what you want.
Just extend it another year. And just extend it another year. We've met one time. Start off this year. And they have business.
Are they gonna, is on their agenda, do you know, the water rate?
I knew we discussed that, I
Yeah.
thought it was December, that they were gonna take that up.
Yeah.
I just also like to bring up at this point that we do have a new member of the township, Jeff Lucas, who has applied, to be a volunteer. So, I don't know, an alternate member could be added, you know, Mr. Lucas is well qualified. He's been involved in water company, business, internationally and nationally for, what is it, 30 years?
No, my water experience only goes 4 years back.
Oh.
Mark and I have been comparing notes here, he's got 10 times what I have.
Oh.
But at the end of the day, I saw an opportunity to volunteer for the water company. I'm in the township. If my skills and experience can be of help, I'm available.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I'm getting a little confused though, I mean, I can't, why don't we just extend this for a year, so we have that already, and then within that year, we can determine how we wanna organize, going forward, going into 26. And certainly, yeah, why don't we can't add an alternate without changing the resolution?
Yep, if we're gonna extend it for a year, we'll change it anyway. So if you wanna add a member, an alternate member, you can at that time.
Okay, so what are we doing? Amending the resolution? Is that what we need to do here?
Yes, and you can tell, and now decide how you're going to amend it. Extend it for a year and add an alternate, is that what?
We'll get back to you on that detail. Right, Paul?
I say extend it a year and add an alternate.
Is that?
You got people that wanna,
So, in order to do that, he has to amend it. So the motion's gonna be to amend the existing.
To extend it a year and
Add an alternate. I'll make that motion.
no second.
All in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
I'm gonna vote no because I don't believe that's the wording of the original resolution.
Solicitor.
So, there was an issue with the deed ordinance, in terms of, providing notice to a potential violator, that it made it very difficult to actually provide notice. So there's a proposed amendment to amend the deed ordinance, to provide for alternate methods of notice of violations. It's previously been provided to you. The action item is to
Make a motion to advertise the draft, authorize advertising of the draft.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's me. I'd like to make the motion authorizing, myself, Chairman, to execute the engagement and representation agreement with Timothy Schultes, Sullivan Hughes, PC. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion to approve resolution 2025-01 tax rates for 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve resolution 2025-02 fee schedule for 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Yep.
I would like to say, good work. This is one of the best fee schedules I've seen. I really appreciate the effort you put into it, thank you. I thought I saw somewhere where we were going to be trying to accept credit cards for payment. And what I don't see in the fee schedule is the credit card fee, 2 or 3%. When we
Can't charge that.
can't charge that.
You have to call it something else. You have to include it in. You have to call it administrative fee. The credit card companies are what they will call it credit card fee.
So, I would just like, so we're not using the credit cards yet, no. So, when we get to that point, we can add that to the fee schedule. Okay, thank you again, I say very good work, I appreciate it.
Motion to approve resolution 2025-03 setting wages.
We didn't vote on the fee schedule yet,
Oh,
Mr. Chairman.
sorry.
It's a yes for me.
Yes.
Yes,
Skis.
yes,
Yes, yeah, okay. Motion to approve resolution 2025-03 setting wages.
Second that.
Okay, favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, yep, you're up, Matt.
This is the same thing as every year, labs, laboratory analytical, biological services, except in New Oxford. Those are water testing for the water system. I motioned, enter into a contract with them to do a water testing for 2023.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Paul?
So I already called for the executive session, and thank you all for being here today. And, I'm going to move to table the discussion on the policy agenda setup. I always do that. The agenda setting policy and the recording policy to next month, so we can get out of here.
Thank you, Paul.
I need a second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Upcoming meetings. Elected auditors, January 7th, that commenced on 1/7/2025. Planning Commission, January 8th, that was canceled. Rec Board, January 21st, 2025, 6 p.m. Water Committee, January 29, 2025, 5:30 p.m. at the Township Building. Zoning Hearing Board, January 29, 2025, 7 PM, Township Building. Board of Supervisor, regular scheduled meeting, February 5, 2025, 6 PM at the Corner Fire Hall. I make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.